My name's Danny Fenton and I'm an aeromodeller and an engineer. Join me on a fascinating journey where I show you some of the techniques used in scale aeromodelling. So what I'm going to look at today is I'm still working on the Canopy plug and, well, not so much the plug anymore, but now I'm looking at how I'm going to actually vac-form this. And it's one of those things that you think about so much that you put yourself off doing it. So what I've decided to do is just do it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But so that's what I'm going to be looking at today, is assembling the vac-formed table, the frame that holds the PETG, which is the plastic I'm going to use, and a box or cabinet with some heaters in the bottom that are going to melt the plastic to the right temperature. I haven't got anything to measure the temperature. The unit I've got will only read up to 244 degrees F, and I need to get this plastic up to 300 degrees F. So I'm going to just suck it and see. But at £10 a sheet, I haven't really got a lot of leeway to make errors. So, so without further ado, we'll get on with actually gluing and assembling this frame. So it's going to be a bit more of a, rather than modelling, it's going to be a bit more of a woodworky type video. Anyway, hope you enjoy it. First of all, let me just talk you through the bits that I've made already. So I've cut some 5mm plywood into 30mm wide, or roughly an inch, just over an inch wide strips. I've got several of those. I'm going to laminate those together to make the frame that holds the PETG. Then for the baseboard part, I've got two sheets of, I don't know what it is, 12mm MDF, and these are the same size ish. And the idea is that they're going to have, that's a bit bashed at that end, never mind, it's going to get clamped and glued anyway, so I'm sure it'll be fine. So these two sections go like this, and then these two actually go through there like that and like that. These will get glued, and I also want to run a piece just down the middle there to support the two layers. So that will all get glued. That then gets glued on top of that to form a box. On the underside, I'm going to bore a hole right here, hopefully the right size to allow a vacuum hose end fitting to fit snugly in there. That will provide the suction. Then on the other side, I'm going to draw out a map or a grid of holes, and I'm going to use probably 2mm holes and drill several hundred 2mm holes in this, and that's going to be quite a lengthy process. So that's probably going to be the first thing I do on this, is mark it all out into a grid and drill the holes. As you can see, this is going to take some considerable time. So we'll come back in a bit and I've made all these holes. And there we go. I'm not going to do this last row because it's going to be, those holes will be blocked by the spacer boards that are going to go around the edge. So that's that bit. Right, what I'm going to do on the other side, just want to have a look to make sure everything's good. I hate it when companies put stickers on that are so well adhered that you can't get them off again. It's quite annoying. Let me just find some sandpaper and we'll just tidy this up. In fact, what we'll do is we'll use the mouse and I'll just whiz over it with the machine. Well, that's highlighted a couple of areas where I've actually not gone right through with the drill, so let's rectify that. There's 3 in this area here. Well and truly not drilled. So there we go. That's done. And that's that nicely done. So that surface there is complete and ready to be bonded. This section, I need to find the size of my vacuum cleaner hose and find a boring bit that matches. So this is the vacuum I tend to use for vac forming, and here you can see the size of the nozzle that we need to accommodate. So why is it every time you come to use calipers they're always flat? Right, so we're looking at, it's actually slightly elliptical, but that's the diameter, so we'll find some bits. So we look like we're probably up around that. That's too big. What's that one? Don't know yet. Can't see the writing on the wall. That one's just a fraction too big. Now this needs to be a good fit. It needs to be a snug fit. So that's too small. But I think what I'll do is I'll go with this one and then we'll open it up to size so that we get a good fit. So I'm going to basically just drill more or less in the middle. See if we can find a piece of sacrificial to go underneath. And it's not important where this hole is as long as it's somewhere around the middle, so we'll go here. Just about, a little bit more. So here is the hose. We need to go in there, and obviously it's too tight at the moment. It's close though, it's close. Now, a tool like this is probably going to work quite well, so we'll give it a go. That I think will do, because that will soften. I'll just take a little bit more off of there. That will gradually get larger as we go along. So now that's perfect now. Nice snug fit. So that's that bit done. So we'll put that. Let's see if it'll go in from the other side. It's a cleaner surface. Just to make sure it'll go in from either way. Yep, goes in either way, so that's lovely. So I'm going to have that rather nice face towards the bottom, not for any reason other than just niceness. Right, so all we need to do now, position these strips around the edge and glue them down. Glue and clamp. So I'm just going to position them now just to get an idea where they all are. Now I could do them edge on, or I could do them flat, but I think the glue bond will be better if I do them flat, so that's how I'm going to do them. I can go around the outside of this frame afterwards with some tape just to seal it all off. So I'm not too worried if they don't fit together perfectly. That will be fine. I need to think about how I'm going to clamp this. So see if these clamps actually will go all the way across the entire structure. If they will, then that's great. And they will not quite. So I need to use a different way of clamping this lot. I'm also going to glue this way up because this surface actually ended up more true, i.e. rectangular, and these corners were 90 degrees. They were much better on this piece of wood than that one. So I'm going to glue it up like that, and as you can see it's far more precise. So that's going to be how I do it. So what I need to do now is figure out how I'm going to clamp the edges. I'm just drawing around the area so that I know how big an area to put glue on. This is just Type Bond original. This is an indoor glue, it's not waterproof. I think we may have used a little bit too much glue, but as this is not a flying part, well, not unless I throw it across the workshop, I think we'll be alright. So, do like that. Should be a little section here. Then I'm just going to position midway. No, I'm going to go that way. I'm going to go lengthways. There we go. That'll do. Then we just need to position this over the top of that, and then clamp the bejesus out of it, and then hope. Of course, I have put that exactly where we really don't want it. Let's just think about this a bit. Yeah, I really don't want that to be anywhere near where the vacuum cleaner hose is going to come in. So we'll put it there, which is sufficiently far over, so we should be fine. And this just drops down straight on top of that. As best we can. And we'll clamp it all down. And there we go. That's the base made, that the vac-forming base. And as you can see, it's just big enough to take the plug. Width is fine, length could do with being another 1.5 inches, but that's what we've got. So that's what we're going to go with. Okay, we'll come back in a minute when I start assembling the frame. So it's the next day, and all the clamps can now come off. The glue is set. And there we have a nice solid base ready for action. And it is flat. It looked it looked warped when I looked at it there, but no, it is flat. It is flat. So there we go. So the next step is to build a frame around this to hold the PETG. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this surface as a guide to set the dimensions of the frame. So I'm going to flip it over face down, because this side is not exactly the same as the top. There's a little bit of a discrepancy, but it's the top surface I need to be accurate to. So what I intend to do is overlap this. So if we take the side piece, and so the overlap is going to be that big. So as long as I'm about there, that should be good. And I'm going to use this base, the upper surface of the base, to give me my angle. So this one can be cut. I want them to overlap. Yeah, so I want that one to be cut through there, so that this piece butts against it and goes along there. So this one is long. Doesn't really matter how you do it, as long as they overlap at the corners and we end up with 2 layers thick. That's the end of the exercise. So that's that one. Actually, it's that way around. Let's keep it orientated the way we want. what I'm doing here is I'm forcing this T-square along two edges, a length and a side, and what that's doing is actually just forcing the frame slightly larger to ensure that there is some clearance when I push it down over the top. That's one frame now made. Now I think I'm going to let that dry because I want to build the other one on top of that. Would be my favoured way of doing it. Just trying to get it so it's balanced, it's not twisted. Should be another box of clamps. Ah, no. They're already around this temporary frame that I was. Hopefully that should do us. Then what I'm going to do is just double check that it's square still. It is. Not square, but true. And then I think I'll just rest it on the bench. To set. That'll do for now. We'll let that dry and then we'll build the other frame on top of the base just like we did there. So I haven't got enough clamps to do two at once, so I'll do one, let it dry and do another. Shouldn't take too long for the glue to just flash off. So it's been an hour, so hopefully these are pretty much set now. It's fairly rigid, which is good. Kind of straight. So the idea there is just to drop it straight over that, and then the plastic will seal against this as it goes past. So should be alright. And there's just enough play, I think, to give me some wiggle room to get it down. So what I need to do now is to put another one on top of this and make a second. Still a little bit of soft wet glue on this side where it's squeezed out, so it's probably not solid yet. I'm going to do it the same way as I did this side and actually build on this surface and leave that one as a separate item to dry. This is fiddlier than it should have been. But we got there in the end. Yeah, I think we're good. I'm just going to run this down the edge again, as I did on the other side. Just to create the gap. Just rest that on there and let that go completely solid, and then we should have two frames and the base, and the only bit we've then got to make is the four-sided section this balances on with the heaters at the bottom. So when this is dry, we'll carry on. So a little while more has passed, and the edge is firmed up. I'll put them in there, put them over here. So that's going to fit over there nicely. And so is that. So the idea is we take our sheet of plastic, PETG, and we position it over the frame like so. Now the thing that worries me is that the PETG is only slightly bigger than the opening in the frame. So I really am hoping it will grip firmly enough that we don't get a problem. I may as well use just about all the clamps I have. The more clamps, the better chance I have of actually gripping that plastic and it not pulling away from the frame. Right, so that's what we end up with. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a box of 4 sides that is in between those two, so the middle of the rail really. Build a square box, maybe 2 or 3 feet high, heaters go in the bottom, and then this rests on top. So, and as you can see, when you push it down, it's fairly easy to get it centered over that. That will seal against that, and we'll suck down. Okay, so we'll leave this overnight just to cure a bit more, and then we'll get on with making the frame for the heater box. Well, it's been another day and a lot more thinking, and the first efforts of just holding this box structure together with duct tape has failed miserably. Well, it didn't fail miserably, but it just wasn't going to hold, and as soon as I subject it to 300 degrees C at 300 degrees F Fahrenheit, it was going to melt. So I've gone away from that now, and I've actually glued the MDF panels together to make up the right size. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to line the MDF panels before I actually make the box with some tin foil. So what I'm using to stick it is trim fix adhesive. Now this is used, you'll remember this was used in the van when we put the carpeting on the inside of the van, and this is a high temperature glue. And that will do, because it's not going to be completely robust or anything like that. It's just to tack it to the panels so that they don't just fall off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a little bit at the bottom, just to give me some room to play with. As you'll remember from the van, you get one shot at this, and then that's it. And that should do it. Just got to try and remember to do the inside panels, not make two left-handed. And there you go. It doesn't have to be perfect. And at the end of the day, I'm putting all this work into making 1 or 2 canopies. It really is silly, really, and I'm really regretting not just sending it off to be vac-formed by one of the professional vac-forming companies. You know me, in for a penny, in for a pound. So we'll keep going. What I'll do is I'll cover all the other sections in this tin foil just to reflect the heat back and try and keep it inside the box. And then I'll assemble the box. It's a box with 2 open ends, and I'll put the heater at the bottom end, and then I'll balance the frame with the let me show you what we've got. I balance the frame on top of the box with the PETG inside. Now the videos I've watched, and I had read this before, was stated that you leave the protective film on both sides of the PETG when you do the vac forming. It protects it from scratches and stuff as the vac forming process takes place. So we'll try that. I have experience of doing it that way before, and it ended up welding the protective film to the plastic. It did come off eventually, but it was really hard work to get it off. So we'll see. I'll let you know. All right, so as I say, I'll do some more pieces and then we'll come back and we'll assemble it. Well, we're in the kitchen. We're going to do a bit of vac forming. What I need to do first is just vac form the 2 side blown bits of the canopy. When I've made those 2 vac form parts, I'm then going to fill them probably with it's like a dental putty, and it goes hard. It's like plaster of Paris, but it's much finer. And I'll fill the 2 blown sections with that, and then I'm going to temporarily attach them to the sides of the canopy so that when I vac form them I get the bulges, but then I can remove the part of the mould that is stopping the canopy lifting from the plug fairly easily. So anyway, hopefully you'll see what I mean. I've got an idea in my head. Hopefully it'll work. Okay, so here we go. So as you can see, that the plastic has got loads and loads of bubbles in it. And that's usually a sign that you've got it too hot. So we'll try again. So there we have one of the parts, and it's not perfect. It's not as good as I'd hoped it was going to be, but it's pretty good. Now I'm in 2 minds as to whether to attach this to the plug like that, maybe just use a little bit of silicone sealant around the edge just to attach it to the plug, or whether to fill this with the dentist ceramic like plaster of Paris, but it isn't. It's a similar sort of stuff, but it's much finer. I was intending to completely fill this, make a second one and fill that, and then attach it to give it some rigidity. But it is actually quite firm, so I'm wondering whether I can get away with just trimming around the edge, not too close, and attaching it to the plug and then moulding on it. I'm not sure. I'm still thinking about it, but that one's not so bad, and I've got another sheet of this, another piece of this cut ready to go. So I will do another one, I think, just to make sure, you know, that I've got a pair. And in the interests of science, this piece I'll use with both bits removed, both protective layers removed. Let's see how it goes. Well, it's another day, and we're about to do what I've been putting off for weeks, if not months. I've got my heat box all sorted out, foil lined, 2 heaters in the bottom, generating around 3200 watts of heat. It's quite a big box, so that hopefully the amount of air in there will circulate and mix up so that we get a really nice even coverage on the top. I have the table made up. It's a vacuum table, so it's made up of layers of MDF, 1/2 inch thick MDF with holes drilled in. It creates a box, but the box is only half an inch thick, and then there's a hoover or a vacuum hose sort of wedged into a hole underneath. It's in a very old 70s Black & Decker workmate, and it really is rigid. It's nice and solid. So the idea is that we heat the plastic on top of this box, and I've done a trial yesterday and I got it up to 100 degrees C. I need 100 degrees C plus a bit, 115, 120 ideally, so we may not be generating enough heat with this method, so it may fail. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But what I intend to do is heat it up on top of this heater box, then simply lift it from the one side to this side, and away we go. I'm going to try a new technique which you'll have seen in one of the earlier clips, where I actually don't apply the suction until after I've let it all pull down. Because what I've been finding with things like spinners and things with a lot of curve on them is that if it sucks immediately, then it pulls creases into the corners and the edges. So what I intend to do this time is to push it down firmly, and if need be, I'm even going to push the edges down with my hands before I apply the vacuum. And then we'll see if that gives us a little bit more of a head start. As you know, the sheets of plastic are at £10 each, so I really can't just be trying over and over again, apart from the fact that I've only got 4 sheets at the moment, and I don't really want to be spending a small fortune on these. I may have to resort to plan B, which is to go to Select and get them vac-formed by professionals. But we'll see. You know me, like a challenge. So let's get on with it. Okay, so I've turned the heat on the 2 heaters, and we've now just got to watch and keep an eye on the temperature. I've got this temperature probe here, which is telling me we're already up to 25 degrees inside there. 26 in fact. 29. 34. Now what I intend to do is the minute I get the sag and I'm getting close to 100, then I'm going to unplug the heaters, move it across and put my foot on the pedal of the vacuum cleaner. 68. Starting to get a little bit of bowing, you can probably see in the camera. 72. 75. I'm going to try this first run with the protective film on both sides, see if that works. 85. We're just starting to get soft. 88. As I said before, I'm worried that this won't get hot enough. 99. We really need something over 100. 102. I'm going to keep letting it go because that's not enough. I can see from the amount of bow in it that we've not got enough. I think we probably need 120. 104. 108. Still rising, so we're okay at the moment. Not quite soft enough yet, but it's getting there. It is 1 millimeter thick, so it's quite an amount of plastic. 115. I'm seeing more of a bow, a more even bow all the way around. It's possibly that the film that I've left on is making it more stiff than it would normally be. I'm going to keep going and see if these corners do anything. I don't think this is going to work at that. I don't think it's soft enough. 121. I don't think it's going to stretch enough when I push it over the mould because it's got to move a long way. It's really got to stretch. So I think it's going to pull out of the frame if I try it at this. But we'll keep going. 123. 125. If I get to 130, I'm going to give it a go. This will be the first video where I've used 2 cameras as well, so I've got a second camera actually on the mould, so you should see everything as it happens. Very exciting, isn't it? It's sagging nicely in the corners now, so it is distributing the heat nicely. Got 135 at this right hand end, 138, 133 at this end, only 130 in the middle. The ends need to be hotter, so I think as we're at 130, I'm going to give it a go. Fingers crossed. Oh, get down, you sod. No, that's not working. I'm going to put it back on the heater again. Now, while it's heating, I'm going to see if I can get the plastic film off. Certainly off this one side. So you can See, it's coming off fairly easily. I'm just wondering whether this will give us more give in the plastic. You can see as it's coming up to temperature, it's sagging back down again. I've gotten away with this before, where you stretch it, it doesn't work, and you put it back on the heat, and away it goes again. So when it completely sags again, we're only at 100 at the moment. Need to make sure it's centered over the frame, because you lose a bit of heat around the edges, and you really don't want that. So you can see it's sagging right back down again. $105, $113. I'm pleased that the plastic hasn't pulled out of the frame, but I was finding when I was pushing down really firmly that the frame was flexing, so I think the frame needs to be thicker. It doesn't matter so much if we can't actually seal it against the frame and it sucks, because you can actually use this as a plunge mould and not worry too much about the vacuum actually kicking in, because the lower 30 millimeters of the plug are actually not needed. So as long as it goes over the front and the rear, then it's gone down far enough that I can use it. 121 in the middle. I guess you'd call this pre-stretching. What's that? 115. So it's not as even as I'd hoped. I'd hoped we'd have a little bit more of an even coverage. $132, $132. I think we're going to have a go at that. Give it a shot. Just wondering whether to wait until that fully forms. It doesn't look like it's going to go much above 130. So we're going to give it another go. Fingers crossed. Right, 3, 2, 1, here we go. Well, I think you'll agree that didn't work. Close, but no pudding. Well, as you can see, it's produced a nice solid casting, and it's nearly worked. This curve around here is lovely, and it's beautifully smooth, so it's close to working. But I think what you really need for this is a little bit more heat. It needs to be probably 140. And a better grip on the sides. As you can see, the amount of force I was using to pulled it out of the edges, which is a bit of a shame. But I'm very pleased with the curve of this. If I was just making the top section, you know, there's enough there. It's good enough. But unfortunately I'm not. It just needs to be a little bit deeper, and that would have worked. So I was worried that the clamping effect wasn't enough with just these clamps. So perhaps nuts and bolts all the way around the edge that actually goes through the plastic. But as you can see, there's only a ½ inch of plastic actually gripped. So it was on a hiding to nothing anyway. So we'll have to have a bit of a think as to whether we give this another go, or whether I drive down the road to Slack and get them to form it for me. Bit too much excitement for now. Well, see you on the next one.